Caitlin Clark, Sophie Cunningham, and Lexie Hull dropped an announcement, and it wasn't just a press release. It was a shockwave. 3 players, 3 voices, one united statement that rattled the WNBA to its core. In that instant, the league was standing on shaky ground. One misstep now, and the entire system risks collapsing. Here's why. We're not talking about a few bench players venting online. These are some of the league's most recognizable figures. A star rookie, a fiery veteran, and a rising defender with everything on the line. And all 3 of them are recovering from serious injuries. Not minor sprains or routine setbacks. These are major, career-threatening traumas. Caitlin Clark suffered a devastating leg injury, the kind insiders whisper about behind closed doors. Lexie Hull endured a frightening eye injury that nearly cost her vision. Sophie Cunningham experienced a brutal knee collapse mid-game, with no foul called, no protocols followed, and no comment from the league for days. These weren't random accidents. They were warning signs. And what did the WNBA say? Nothing. Silence. A silence so loud it became an insult. So the players did what the league refused to, spoke up, loudly and together. And with that joint announcement, chaos erupted. Because this wasn't just 3 players complaining. It was a reckoning. The kind that forces tough questions into the spotlight. Why aren't players being protected? Why is the league ignoring this? How long has it been happening? The answers aren't comforting. Truth is, it's been happening for far too long. Clark, Cunningham, and Hull aren't just injured, they're angry. And they're done with the narrative that pushing through pain is noble. They're rejecting the idea that playing hurt is admirable. They refuse to accept that their suffering is simply part of the job. Here's the reality nobody wants to admit. The WNBA has a player safety crisis, and it isn't new. It didn't start with Caitlin's injury. It's systemic. Built over years. A culture of neglect hiding in plain sight. Players are crammed into commercial flights, making recovery nearly impossible. They don't have constant access to elite trainers or the kind of recovery technology NBA athletes rely on. Some even pay for medical treatment out of pocket. And when injuries do happen, the response is slow, the transparency absent, the accountability missing. It's as if the league shrugs and hopes nobody notices. Well, people are noticing now. Because the biggest name in women's basketball just said, enough. Caitlin Clark could have stayed quiet, played the rookie role, smiled, nodded, and waited her turn. But that's not who she is. With Sophie Cunningham and Lexie Hull standing beside her, Clark transformed a problem into a movement. In that moment, she became more than just a rising star. She became a leader. And Sophie Cunningham? If Clark is the voice of change, Sophie is the spark. She's endured the grind. She's seen how the league treats its players. After her devastating knee injury, and the WNBA's silence in response, she hit her breaking point. Her social media post wasn't polished or diplomatic. It was raw, real, and direct. She called out the system. She called out the silence. And she made it clear, this wasn't an isolated case. This was the culture. Then there's Lexie Hull. She may be the quietest of the 3, but her words landed like thunder. Her eye injury could have ended her career, or worse. But what fans remembered wasn't just the injury. It was how the league brushed it aside, treating it like a minor footnote. So when she added her voice to the growing chorus, the movement became unstoppable. 3 different players. 3 different roles. One united message. We are not disposable. And that's the heart of it. Strip away the injuries, the statements, the hashtags. What remains is about dignity. These women are elite athletes. They're cultural icons. They're leaders. Yet they're being treated like replaceable parts in a machine that only values them when they deliver highlights. The moment they get hurt or dare to speak out, silence follows. Fans aren't accepting that anymore. The backlash has been enormous. Hashtags like #ProtectOurPlayers and #Justice4WNBA are trending. Sports media outlets that once gave the WNBA polite nods are now dragging the league through the mud. Even sponsors are watching closely, because when public trust erodes, money gets nervous. And the league's silence? It's not just bad optics. It feels like betrayal. These players aren't demanding luxury hotels or gold-plated treatment tables. They're asking for basic respect. Safety. The bare minimum of care from a league they've dedicated their lives to. Now, the pressure is building. Because here's what happens when stars are ignored. They unite, they organize, and they speak out. And when they do, every broken promise gets dragged into the light. This isn't just a health issue. It's a cultural one. The message players keep hearing is, "You are replaceable." But the truth, they're not. You can't replace Caitlin Clark. You can't replicate Sophie's fire or Lexie's grit. And if the league continues to act as if they're interchangeable, it risks losing them forever. This is a tipping point. A line in the sand. And it's not about 3 players anymore. It's about all of them. Behind Clark, Cunningham, and Hull stands a growing army of athletes watching, waiting, and ready. Ready to demand better medical care. Ready to demand better travel conditions. Ready to demand a voice. And the WNBA has a choice. Listen or self-destruct. Let's talk about Sophie Cunningham for a moment, because her role in this rising storm is impossible to ignore. If Caitlin Clark has become the voice of change, Sophie is undoubtedly the spark that ignited the fire. She's been through the grind, she's seen the inside of the league, and she knows exactly how players are treated when the spotlight dims. When her knee buckled and she collapsed in the middle of a game, the WNBA's reaction was silence. No foul, no official protocol, and no statement for days. Watching the league essentially pretend her injury didn't exist was the breaking point. Sophie's response was not subtle. She didn't craft a diplomatic message. She didn't mask her frustration behind vague platitudes. Her social media post was blunt, raw, and real. She pointed fingers directly at the system. She called out the WNBA's silence, demanding to know why athletes were left to fend for themselves in moments that could alter the course of their careers. Sophie's post reminded everyone that her injury wasn't just another bad break. It was the latest symptom of a culture built on neglect. Then comes Lexie Hull. She may be more reserved, quieter in her public persona, but don't mistake that for weakness. Her experience is just as harrowing, and her voice carries a quiet strength. Hull's eye injury wasn't just painful, it was potentially life-changing. The kind of trauma that could permanently impair vision, derail her career, and alter her life outside basketball. Yet what stung most wasn't the injury itself. It was the way it was handled. The lack of urgency. The way it was minimized, treated almost like an afterthought. When Hull finally added her voice to this movement, it was like the missing puzzle piece snapping into place. 3 players, each with unique perspectives and personalities, found common ground in their frustration. Together, they delivered a message that could no longer be ignored. We are not disposable. This is the heart of the crisis. It's not just about bruises, surgeries, or rehab schedules. It's about dignity. These women aren't just athletes, they're role models, cultural icons, and leaders for the next generation. They've dedicated their lives to the game, carried the weight of representation for women's sports, and built the foundation for future athletes to dream bigger. And yet, in return, they're treated like interchangeable parts of a machine. A system that values them only when they're putting up highlights and filling seats, but turns silent when they're sidelined with devastating injuries. The fans aren't staying quiet anymore either. Outrage has been spreading like wildfire. Social media timelines are filled with hashtags like #ProtectOurPlayers and #JusticeForWNBA. These aren't just passing trends, they're cries for accountability. Media outlets that usually gave the league polite but restrained coverage are now dragging the WNBA for its failures. Even sponsors, often cautious and reluctant to engage in controversy, are reportedly paying attention. And if there's one thing that makes leagues nervous, it's when the money starts to feel uneasy. This silence from the league? It's not just bad optics, it's a betrayal. Clark, Cunningham, and Hull aren't asking for luxury. They're not asking for charter jets with champagne on tap or gold-plated training equipment. Their demands are simple, fundamental, and entirely reasonable. They're asking for respect, for safety, for the bare minimum of care that should be standard in a professional league. The fact that such basic requests need to be made publicly says everything about the culture that has been allowed to fester for years. And here's where the stakes climb even higher. The WNBA's refusal to act has forced its stars into unity. Ignoring one player might be possible. Ignoring three, especially three of its most recognizable names, is not. Once players unite, they form a collective voice powerful enough to peel back the curtain on every neglected promise and hidden failure. This is no longer a series of unfortunate injuries. It's a movement, one that strikes at the cultural core of the league. The message players have been hearing for years is loud and clear. You are replaceable. But the reality is exactly the opposite. Caitlin Clark isn't replaceable. She's not just a talented rookie, she's the face of the future. Sophie Cunningham isn't replaceable either. Her fire, her grit, her relentless drive cannot be manufactured or replicated. And Lexie Hull's toughness and defensive presence are invaluable. Together, they represent a unique blend of skill, heart, and leadership that the league simply cannot afford to lose. This is why the current moment is so dangerous for the WNBA. The league has been treating its stars as if they are interchangeable parts, but if that continues, it risks losing them, not to injury alone, but to disillusionment. Players are reaching their limit. They are tired of carrying the burden of silence. They are tired of sacrificing their health for a system that does not reciprocate their commitment. This is the tipping point. A line drawn in the sand. And it's no longer about three women. Behind Clark, Cunningham, and Hull stand dozens of other players, watching closely, waiting for their chance to speak. They see what's happening and they know they might be next. Every twisted ankle, every collision, every injury could be the one that ends their career. And the question they're asking themselves is, will the league care? For years, WNBA players have been expected to accept conditions that their NBA counterparts would never tolerate. Flying commercial, cramped into tight airplane seats after grueling back-to-back games, makes recovery nearly impossible. Limited access to top-tier trainers and cutting-edge recovery technology leaves players vulnerable. Some even pay for medical care out of their own pocket, because the system meant to protect them falls short. And when injuries inevitably occur, the response is slow. Updates are vague or non-existent. Transparency is absent. Accountability is missing. It's as if the league's strategy is to shrug and hope the public isn't paying attention. Well, people are paying attention now. Caitlin Clark could have followed the traditional script. Remain quiet, be grateful, avoid stirring controversy. But she didn't. She saw the silence for what it was, an insult, and decided to act. Standing shoulder to shoulder with Sophie Cunningham and Lexie Hull, she turned the conversation on its head. What was once framed as just the cost of the game is now exposed as systemic neglect. And that's the essence of leadership. Clark isn't just a rookie star anymore. She's a voice. She's a force. By speaking out, she risked not only her reputation but also her career trajectory. She knew the league might view her as a troublemaker rather than a team player. But she did it anyway, because silence had gone on long enough. Sophie and Lexie made the same calculation. They could have stayed quiet, healed in private, and hoped their careers would recover. But instead, they chose to take a stand. They understood that by linking their voices, they could transform individual frustrations into collective power. And that's exactly what's happening. This isn't just about health anymore. It's about culture. It's about respect. It's about rewriting the narrative of what it means to be a professional athlete in the WNBA. No longer will players accept being treated as expendable. No longer will their injuries be brushed aside. No longer will their suffering be hidden behind empty press releases. The league now faces a critical decision. It can continue down the path of silence, pretending this is just noise that will fade with time. Or it can face the truth, admit its failings, and commit to genuine change. Because here's the reality. Ignoring stars is a dangerous gamble. When you alienate the very players who define your league, you're not just creating a PR problem. You're creating a cultural crisis. Fans won't support a league that abandons its heroes. Sponsors won't invest in a league that looks careless. And players won't stay in a league that treats them as disposable. The WNBA is standing at a crossroads. Listen and evolve. or remain silent and risk implosion? Let's step back and look at Caitlin Clark in context, because her role in this story goes far beyond just being an injured rookie. Clark isn't simply another promising player. She's the generational star, the athlete who has carried the weight of broadcast ratings, ticket sales, and merchandise since the moment she entered the league. She isn't just a player. She's a business, a brand, a driving force for the entire WNBA. And now, that business is saying out loud, "I'm being disrespected." Think about how rare that is. The face of an entire sport publicly declaring that the league isn't protecting her? That's not a minor complaint. It's a 5-alarm fire. Under normal circumstances, when the most visible player in your league raises concerns, you move immediately. You fix, you apologize, you reassure the public and the players alike. But what has the WNBA done? Almost nothing. Instead of urgency, there's hesitation. Instead of transparency, there's silence. It's as if the league has convinced itself this will just blow over, that a few angry hashtags on Twitter and a couple of think pieces will disappear in the news cycle. But that's not how it works anymore. The players now have the platform. Social media has rewritten the rules of sports power dynamics. It's not the league, the sponsors, or even the mainstream media controlling the narrative. It's TikTok clips, Instagram stories, Twitter threads, and viral reels with millions of views. That's where the conversation happens now. And in that arena, the players hold the microphone. Sophie Cunningham posts a photo of her post-op scar with the caption, "We deserve better," and suddenly thousands of fans are demanding answers. Lexie Hull looks directly into a camera, her eye still bruised, and says, "This could have been prevented," and that single clip travels across platforms faster than any official statement could. Caitlin Clark, the rookie phenom still recovering from her leg injury, tells the world, "I'm not staying silent anymore," and fans rally to her side instantly. That's not just a complaint. That's a cultural shift. And the fans? They're not stupid. They've seen this story before in other leagues and other sports. They've watched organizations treat devastating injuries as bad luck instead of evidence of failed policies. They've seen recovery timelines rushed so teams don't lose ticket sales. They've seen players forced back onto the court not because doctors cleared them, but because schedules demanded it. They know what it looks like when athletes are treated as expendable commodities rather than human beings. But this feels different. This time, the players are refusing to play along with the old script. They're not hiding their pain. They're not smiling through press conferences and quietly icing swollen ankles behind the scenes. They're saying, loudly and publicly, that their health is non-negotiable. And fans are echoing that sentiment, saying they are finished watching their favorite players get hurt, dismissed, and then subtly blamed for outcomes beyond their control. The league's typical responses, "We're working on it," or "We'll review protocols," are no longer cutting it. The public isn't buying vague assurances. They want action. They want reform. They want proof that player safety actually matters more than optics. Because here's the hard question that this moment forces everyone to ask. Is the WNBA actually investing in its players, or is it simply using them? Let that sink in. If the answer is that the league is investing in its players, then real changes must follow. Better medical resources, safer travel accommodations, and clear injury protocols. But if the answer is that the league has merely been exploiting players for short-term gain, then this isn't just a PR crisis. It's an ethical one. And the consequences could be devastating. If the league continues to downplay injuries, ignore player concerns, and rely on silence as its default strategy, the players won't just be angry. They'll be gone. Maybe not all at once, but piece by piece, star by star. They'll seek opportunities elsewhere, whether in international leagues or in different career paths entirely. And when that happens, fans will leave with them. Because the truth is simple. The product isn't the league. The product is the players. Without Caitlin Clark, there are no sold-out arenas. Without Sophie Cunningham, there are no highlight reels filled with grit and passion. Without Lexie Hull, there are no defensive lockdowns, no clutch steals, no emotional moments that define the spirit of competition. The WNBA cannot build its marketing campaigns around these women and then treat them like afterthoughts the moment they're injured. You can't claim to champion women's empowerment while forcing them to fly coach on back-to-back road trips. You can't sell empowerment slogans while refusing to invest in basic medical care. You can't celebrate their strength while simultaneously ignoring their pain. And here's the kicker. Fans see the hypocrisy. They're watching closely now, dissecting every move the league makes, and they're not forgiving easily. Once the curtain is pulled back, once the truth is visible, you can't unsee it. Fans can't cheer for a league that abandons its heroes. Sponsors can't comfortably attach their brands to an organization seen as careless with its athletes. And the players themselves. They're done waiting for someone else to fight their battles. They are the fight. This moment isn't just about basketball. It resonates far beyond the court. Every woman in every industry knows this feeling. Being overworked. Being underpaid. Being expected to deliver 110% while being resourced at 70%. Being celebrated when convenient, but dismissed when inconvenient. That's what makes this moment so powerful. It's not just a sports movement, it's a labor movement. It's about visibility, respect, and recognition. Clark, Cunningham, and Hull have now become the faces of this movement. Whether they intended to or not, they've placed themselves at the center of something larger than basketball. They've reminded the world that strength doesn't mean suffering in silence. That loving the game doesn't mean tolerating a system that breaks you and shrugs. That being a professional athlete doesn't mean giving up your right to dignity. And now the WNBA faces its moment of truth. Will it finally admit its mistakes, apologize publicly, and implement meaningful reforms? Will it bring in outside medical experts, overhaul outdated injury protocols, and invest in real rehabilitation programs? Or will it continue to stall, double down on silence, and hope this storm passes? Because here's the reality. There is no going back. Not after this. Not after them. This moment is historic. Years from now, people will look back and call it a turning point. Leagues will pretend they were always proud of how far they've come. But right now, they're not proud, they're panicked. Because power has shifted. If the league doesn't listen now, it won't just lose trust. It will lose the very game it's trying to build. Let's be clear, this situation isn't just about sports. It's about labor, health, and humanity. The message these three players are sending, Clark, Cunningham, and Hull, is universal. They are showing the world that being strong doesn't mean suffering in silence. That being dedicated doesn't mean accepting neglect. That loving the game doesn't mean letting a system break your body while pretending nothing's wrong. And here's the most important part. They've stopped asking. They're demanding. When Caitlin Clark, Sophie Cunningham, and Lexie Hull linked arms, figuratively, socially, and literally, they didn't just call out the WNBA. They exposed something deeper, something older. The long-standing expectation that women in sports are supposed to endure, not thrive. To be grateful, not demanding. To be tough, not protected. And when they get hurt, they're left to figure it out alone. We cannot downplay the severity of what happened. These aren't sprained wrists or bruised shoulders. These are catastrophic, career-threatening injuries. Clark's leg injury alone is enough to alter the trajectory of the league itself, because she isn't just a rookie, she's the WNBA's entire growth strategy. Ticket sales skyrocketed the moment she was drafted. Jersey sales exploded. Networks suddenly cared. ESPN started dedicating coverage it had ignored for years. That was Clark's impact. She didn't just play, she transformed the economics of the sport. So when she went down with a potentially season-altering leg injury, what did the WNBA offer? Nothing. No detailed medical updates, no press conferences, no transparent rehab plans. Just silence. Compare that to the NBA. If a number one pick collapsed with a similar injury, we'd see daily updates, medical breakdowns on sports shows, and team doctors on morning talk shows reassuring fans. But in the WNBA, shrugs, silence, dismissal. The same happened with Cunningham. She collapsed mid-game, screaming in pain, her knee giving out in front of thousands of fans and cameras. No foul was called, no immediate protocols followed, and no official word from the league. Fans were left piecing together information from blurry replays and rumors on social media. And Hull. Her eye injury was terrifying, something that could have cost her not just her career, but her eyesight. Yet again, the league acted like it was a footnote, barely worth addressing. At some point, you stop calling this incompetence. You start calling it what it really is: neglect. Whether intentional or not, it's systemic, built into the very culture of the league. And that's why this moment matters so much. Because these women aren't just venting. They're organizing. They didn't whisper through agents or leak information to friendly reporters. They went straight to the fans. They used platforms the league can't control. And the internet erupted. Hashtags like #ProtectOurPlayers and #Justice4WNBA went global. Former players spoke out, sharing their own experiences of being ignored. Fans began tagging sponsors, asking why they would support a league that doesn't support its stars. Receipts surfaced, stories of legendary players who suffered similar fates, injured and dismissed in silence. This isn't just a flare-up. This is a full-scale movement. And it's not going away. Here's what the WNBA doesn't realize yet. Clark, Cunningham, and Hull aren't fighting to abandon the league. They're fighting to save it. They want to stay. They want to build something better. They want women's basketball to finally receive the investment and respect it deserves. But they won't keep pushing through with duct tape on their knees and Advil in their bags. This was their warning shot. Fix this now, or risk losing us. And if they walk, fans walk with them. Because the truth is simple. The product isn't the league. The product is the players. Without Clark, there are no sold-out arenas. Without Cunningham, there are no highlight reels that inspire fans. Without Hull, there are no gritty defensive moments that swing games. You can't market empowerment while delivering neglect. You can't brand yourself as a progressive league while forcing players to fly coach and pay for medical care out of pocket. Fans see the hypocrisy now. The world is watching. And the players. They're no longer waiting for anyone else to fight their battles. They've become the fight. And it's not just about basketball anymore. Every woman in every profession knows this story. Overworked. Underpaid. Expected to deliver endlessly. Celebrated only when convenient, and abandoned the second things get tough. That's what makes this movement powerful. It isn't just a sports issue, it's a labor issue, a visibility issue, a respect issue. If the WNBA wants to survive this, it needs to act decisively. That means issuing a public apology, overhauling injury protocols, bringing in outside medical experts, funding true rehabilitation programs, and committing to player safety above profit margins. That means listening. Because the player's message is crystal clear. We don't want pity, we want protection. We don't want PR statements, we want change. And we are not waiting anymore. The league has a choice to make. It can pretend this will pass, or it can recognize this moment for what it is, a reckoning. If it ignores the players, the next generation of stars may not even choose the WNBA. They'll go where safety and respect come first. Where they're treated as investments, not liabilities. And all of that starts now. Caitlin, Sophie, and Lexie have drawn the line. Their voices echo beyond the court, beyond the league, into the larger conversation about what women in sports, and in society, are forced to endure. They're saying something much deeper than, "we want better pay," or "we want more exposure." They're saying, "we're not safe here." And if that doesn't force change, nothing will. Because here's the darkest truth of all. If the league doesn't fix this, players will keep getting hurt. And eventually, they won't come back. Once stars start slipping away, not because of trades or contracts, but because their bodies can't withstand a system built on neglect, the league itself collapses. Clark knows this. She didn't just rewrite records. She rewrote the business model of the WNBA. She gave it a future. And now she's risking it all to protect that future. Not just for herself, but for every girl who dreams of going pro. Cunningham and Hull are doing the same. This is legacy work. This is sacrifice. This is leadership in real time. And if the WNBA doesn't respond meaningfully, it's not just failing 3 players. It's failing the entire foundation it's built on. Fans can see the truth now. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. So here's the message, directly to the league. Do better, immediately. To the fans, stay loud. To the players, we've got your back. And to Clark, Cunningham, and Hull, keep going. What you've started is bigger than all of us. It's historic. And whether the league is ready or not, change is coming. Because this isn't just basketball. This is a revolution. This isn't just a story about 3 players. It's about respect, dignity, and the future of women's basketball. Clark, Cunningham, and Hull have drawn the line, and the WNBA can no longer ignore them. The question now is simple. Will the league finally listen, or will it let silence destroy everything these athletes have built? And that's where you come in. Fans aren't just spectators anymore. You're part of this movement. Your voice matters, your support matters, and together, you can push for the change these players deserve. If you believe athletes should be protected, if you believe their health and humanity matter just as much as their highlights, then join this conversation. Stay loud. Share their stories. Keep the pressure on. And if you want to follow every twist, every revelation, and every cultural shift shaping the future of sports, hit subscribe right now. Because this story isn't over, and neither is the fight.